moves so slow.
Right.
Of course, the next phase could happen a lot quicker, and we don't know what the state is going to do. So good question, but it's going to take some time. I had a question about, we still don't know for sure how much or the expense of the Solvang upgrade is going to be.
Based off their CIP plan, we're anticipating about 3.2 million for our cost share.
And how much of that is coming out of our reserves?
We know initially what I was told was that initially the aeration project would be paid in cash, which is on the agenda for the price, and I had $500,000. The rest of it, what was instructed was to reach out and coordinate with the city of Solvang to ensure that when they go to finance it, that we're included in their financing as well, so that way we can finance it. I believe the rate study that's presented by Mr. Tuffield, correct me if I'm wrong, tonight is assuming that we're paying cash for those projects.
Okay, so you're saying that there's a chance that we could be financing or be in on Solvang's financing, so what would happen to this if that was the case?
The reserves would actually be higher at that point in time. The cash reserves would be higher. We also got to anticipate that we still got to pay that back within those 20 years. So it's pay now or pay later, save on interest paying now and have our reserves lower, or have our reserves higher, pay later and pay that extra interest as well.
And when was the last time we had a wastewater committee meeting with Solvang? It's
been
predates you.
Yes.
Because that might be something nice. We might want to get that going and start.
So I think at this time, what we can do is we can call a wastewater committee meeting on our end and then invite them to come. But we do know that they don't have any committees formed at this time. But we can invite the city of Solvang to come to our wastewater committee meeting.
Yeah, I like working with them at the earliest point. And right now we pay $22,000 a month or $20,000 a month? 20. That's how much we pay every month for our wastewater treatment with Solvang. So, and I also I was pretty far into this before I realized that I pay twice as much for sewer service as people that live in Solvang. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but then when you go and look, you see that that's the case for a lot of small towns that rely on somebody else's wastewater treatment plant, and because cities function different than unincorporated areas. But the bill matters here.
Yes.
And I know that Director DeAmbro, I appreciate that you put in not raising for a year, because we had talked about maybe not raising. You know, that's just a very refreshing idea to not always be raising the fees on customers.
I do understand that the city of Solvang is going to have to conduct a rate study once they get moving forward on the expansion of the plant as well. So not sure if that's how much that's going to increase their rates, but that is something they have to consider as well.
They're going to have 200 plus or minus condos / apartments coming in there in the next, I'd say 3 to 5 years, plus the individual stuff. So they're going to, I don't know if that's going to be a cost benefit for the consumer because they're spreading it over a larger base, or it's going to actually add more cost because they have to punch everything up, the volume increases, and you forgot to add this or the unexpected stuff. So they're going to be adding some substantial growth over there. I think it's well advised that we get in as tight as we can with it, because there is no alternative that's on this planet financially advantageous for us. That's our only and our holy grail, is to be in tight with them and know what they're doing and see if we can somehow put our minds together and keep the cost as low as possible. Like you said, $78 a month's a lot of money to flush your toilet. You know, and now we're looking at infinite monthly expenses here, or yearly expenses. I'd like to take a action slash that down if possible. I know that's not possible, but I'd like to keep it low.
If I can make a comment, I think what would help, as we discussed with Jose, that on page 8, where we're showing all that $3.5 million going out to Solvang, that's your cash and your revenues coming and going to Solvay, whereas if you were able to finance that and get onto their payment stream, that money doesn't go out, that stays with you, and then you're just making payments, which will help keep the rates down.
So you're recommending that's the prudent way to go financially?
I don't know the situation here at Solvay.
So we didn't express that to Mr. Tuckfield as far as us getting finance with the city of Salt Lake, 'cause we don't know those terms yet. We don't know what they're gonna get financed, how much, what their terms are gonna be. So we assume that we're gonna pay through cash until we know those terms. Again, at that time, which I don't anticipate that happening for 2 to 3 years, because the aeration project alone is gonna take 2 or 3 years to go. So they won't even know their financing options or terms for 2 or 3 years possibly.
So I guess that means this is still valid until something changes that you know about.
And again, in 2 or 3 years, if we find out that they're getting financed at 7% through CSDA for 20 years, and our portion is this amount, we could reassess the rate study and say, based off of not having to pay cash in years 4 or 5, we don't have to do rate increases at that point.
That's a good thought, I like that.
Director Redfern, do you have any comment or question? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I'm with Mr. Giambra. I don't think now is a good time to be raising rates. With this many people stressed out with this COVID deal, we might want to wait a little bit if we can.
I don't think you're getting any disagreement there. Okay,
So I think that's the direction where the conversation you guys would have is, we presented a 0% increase the first year, considering what's happening in the current climate. And then the board has, suggested or made expression of not wanting to increase rates, not to take away from the consumer as much as we can. So whatever direction we give Mr. Tuckfield, his presentation next month will reflect those numbers.
okay, and do we have any comment from the public right now on this? Gary? Yes, I think you need to unmute, Gary.
He said no.
Oh, no, okay. And anything before we move on? Okay, so then, are we looking for a motion?
Rick Battles is trying to talk.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Battle.
Just a few questions, I guess. So the analysis proposed a 10-year payback period by the Horizon Drive residents, as I understood it. Our policy currently says 20 years. We're free to go with whatever period of time we wanted, but I was curious as to why we were using 10 years for purposes of this project.
I did run analysis with 20 years, and what it shows is the cash flow becomes more positive, which is good for the district. And so what you would do is accumulate more cash, which you would then eventually rebate back. I guess I didn't really know whether a customer would say they want 5-year period, or they want 10, want 15, or 20. So you can see there's a whole range of assumptions. And I thought, well, 10 would be a representative kind of the middle of the road. And $500 a month is not unreasonable, I don't think, for this kind of. If we did 20%, I think I came up with a payment of about $300 if they finance it over a 20-year period.
So that will be a board policy decision, and it's probably a decision you'll need to make before you finalize your rates, so you know what the effect is going to be. But I just point out that under the current version of the installment payment policy, it's a 20-year period. So that was one comment. Will the sewer service charges have an annual cost of living adjustment as they have in the past?
I didn't hear that.
He wondered if the charges will have an annual cost of living increase.
Yeah, I showed that 3% increase in the chart.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. And then there'll be what we're calling a capacity fee for Horizon. We've also got a general capacity fee for all of the customers. Is that what? That's not part of this study, correct?
The capacity charges are already set by policy. So study doesn't develop the charges. They just assume they're going to be paid. So
I could only hear part of that.
when a new customer connects up, they're going to pay the Horizon, they're going to pay the capacity charge, and then the annexation charge.
Okay, and we've got a capacity fee study. I don't remember when that was last done. Is that going to be updated anytime soon? It's separate from the Horizon analysis, isn't it?
I'll let the district answer this. It's gonna be updated.
I'm not sure when the last capacity charge was evaluated and set. Do you recall, Wendy?
Well, it goes up every year by the construction cost index.
That's right.
Right, so that gets updated, but periodically it seems like we should look at the model itself, particularly in light of some of these big expenses. And I'm wondering, I guess, whether some of the capital expenses that we've got should be covered by service charge revenue, or whether some of them might be covered by capacity fee charges, and if our capacity fee model might need to be updated to address that.
Well, the Horizon project will be strictly paid by the Horizon customer, so
Right.
I wouldn't expect the capacity charge to be included in everybody else's charge like that. So it's whether or not that actual, if you did a capacity charge study, would that charge actually increase? I don't know.
Yeah, I was not thinking about Horizon. I was thinking about the Solvang upgrade specifically, and whether any portion of that could properly be paid by capacity fees.
We would have to get we would have to get the costs in order to do a study for that.
But you keep that money, right? The capacity. And that's,
We keep the capacity fee money.
I'm not sure that answers the question.
I wasn't able to hear the response.
Yes, can you explain to Mr. Battles the discussion you just had?
as the actual capacity charge number goes, I'm not sure how that was calculated. For some reason, I think that's related to the Solvang charge when somebody connects up.
There are a few past projects that are included in that capacity charge. One would be, I think, was Golden Inn included on this, Monday?
No.
Okay. So, Sienna, wait, no.
They all pay the current capacity fee. We haven't had a study on the capacity fee since I've been here, and I've been here 7 years.
Okay,
We always increase it by the construction cost index every year.
right.
So are you suggesting we do a capacity fee study?
Well, maybe a preliminary review to determine if it might be out of date. Because, the analysis is more complicated than I can do on the fly here, but sometimes you've got a portion of your sewer service charges that are set aside for capital type projects, sometimes capacity type capital projects, and then most of the capacity fee goes for capacity type capital projects, except to the extent that those are being covered by annexation fees, which depending on your model, they can be. And I think it's a good idea to periodically reevaluate those models to take into account what your current anticipated capacity type projects look like going forward and see if the model still matches up with it. Because if you're just doing a cost of living increase based on the construction cost index, it may or may not be keeping up, and it may or may not be in the right amount. So yeah, I guess I would say after 7 years, it probably is a good idea to review the capacity fee model and see if it might need to be updated. I don't know whether that can be done just based on a preliminary evaluation without doing a formal study, or if you need to do a formal study to determine if changes are needed.
Rick, if I'm understanding you, you're saying if we should probably conduct a capacity charge evaluation, and then that could affect these rate increases that were proposed this evening?
It potentially could affect the rate increase if some of the charges, some of the expenses that are going to be covered by the sewer service charges could more appropriately be covered by capacity fees.
So I guess I'll let Clayton speak after I speak, but I believe if we went with the 0% the first year, then because we have to do a Prop 218, we have to have enough time. So if we're gonna do that, we need to get it done now. But during the interim of that 1 year with 0% increase, we can do a capacity study. We can get that information to Mr. Tuckfield, reevaluate years 2 through 5 at that time.
Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah, that makes a lot of common sense. I like that.
Okay, Mr. Tuckfield?
No, that's me too. Yeah, you got some time to work with it and come up with a new number, sure.
Does that work for you, Battles?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Before we move on. Okay, so what we're looking for now is,
Looking for a motion to give direction to Mr. Tuckfield which proposal tonight we want to move forward with. If there's any changes to the proposals that the board is willing or wishing to propose for this evening.
okay, so,
I'll remind the board that the three proposals that were presented were 3.25% increase annually, 3.75% increase annually, 8.25% increase annually, and 0% 1 year, 4.25 the next 4 years.
So it's 8.5.
8.5%.
just to kick it off, right now, I like the middle one, even though I don't like it in going up 4 point whatever, but that's paying the piper, you know, if you don't do an increase this year. What do you think, Director D'Ambra?
So you're saying like option 1, 3.75 immediate increase?
I was saying that I like the 1 year of no increase.
That's option
3, yes.
Oh, okay.
3.
But I'm open to.
Up to this point, the last 5 years, we have been doing 3.75.
Yes.
Right.
And again, if we do a capacity fee survey study, we're collecting money just from a different source. So you're still having to collect that money just from a different source.
Also, I might point out, you're only talking about 20 customers that would be paying that charge because nobody else is connecting up, right?
I think what we're deciding is the whole district as a whole with that capacity, initial
Yeah,
capacity
right.
charge.
But I mean-
So we do have other customers within the CSD that are not yet connected, so those are fees that they would pay as well.
We could play with this, could we not?
Sure. I mean, that's the whole point. I listed all the assumptions that go into this. You know, that page where I showed you the money coming in, money going out.
And the 0, I think is attractive, everybody's attracted to that, that's reasonable. I just I like that. I know the water district held it down and they pushed that out. That might be something good to put in our flyer when we communicate to the community. Even if we, held it even if 2 years and went to 4.25 or just, could we juggle it? So it's not as painful? I don't have to pay this, but I certainly understand it's a lot of money and we need the money. We have a major project that has to get paid for. Mr. Barrett, throw something in here, please, sir.
I'm not opposed to option 3. And it's just, basically, I think it would help out a little bit.
Especially now.
Yeah, currently they're paying $76, correct?
Yes, although we pay it on our tax bill.
Right.
So it's
And one lump
actually,
sum.
yeah,
Yeah,
1,000.
92004.
92004, yeah. talking $40, $50 a year. No, it's,
But think about it, we're doing 5 years.
5
He projected out 10 years, just project out the 10 years. So
I'm
do it
talking
for
about
5 years.
the first year savings.
Yes, yes.
I just want to know what the first year savings is going to be, you know, $60 or something like that off of the bill. So, I mean, I'm okay with that.
I understand what you're saying. There is not a huge difference than just going with option one and keeping it at
Right.
what it is. And I feel the same way. I wish there was some way to give a little relief this year. But I understand what you're saying, especially when it's done on our property tax. It's not like every month we're seeing another $5 or $10 a month go up, which we may see when we get into the solving upgrade.
Here's what I like. I've noticed the past year since the pandemic came up, prices on everything have gone through the roof. A 2x4x8 fir board, you know what it sells for here at Nielsen's Building Materials? $8.39, including tax. One 2x4x8 stud. I mean, that's the new norm now. Things are through the roof and it doesn't look like they're small. The 4.25 would help. Obviously, another half a point over to 3.75. And that kind of give us maybe a minor buffer as the costs of doing business every day continually rise.
If you look at, so under the 3.75% option, 21-22, you're looking at $954.60, and it's currently $920.04. So you're looking at a $34 difference. For 21-22, if you go, if you raise it 3.75 and not raise it next year, it would be a $34 difference. And then in year 22-23, 75 option, it would be $990.36. And the 4.25% option with the 0% the first year would be $951.16. So you're looking at a $31.20 difference.
I guess I'm interested in the bottom line because it's going to be feel good, send a message, everything is going through the roof and we're just going to hold the line on ours for a year and then it's going to increase? Or is it just going to be business as usual? Because I'm not opposed to either, except for the 8% one. That one, 8.5, I understand why you put it in there, but I'm not interested in doing that.
I personally like, and I don't pay this, okay, I have my own system. I like the 0 for the 4.25. Been a lot of trauma mentally and financially to the community, to the state, to the country. I kind of look at it as our way of holding the line for a year here. You know, we've been battered, you know, and then pick it up down the road. Maybe things will be much better with that, but my gut feeling says, if we can, I'd like to help you any way I can. And it looks to me that we can hold off for an increase for a year. My feeling is that's what I'd like to do. And that's just my opinion.
Are you making a motion for that?
I'll make a motion for that, yes.
And then if we can add to that motion to reevaluate the capacity fee ordinance, bring that back to the board for review and discuss that within the next 6 to 8 months prior to next year's increase.
I think Wendy will
Do
be
you agree
able
with
to
that?
say that.
I would agree with that, add that as an addendum to the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, before we vote, is there anything from Director Redfern or Director Van Pelt, anything you want to say before we move forward?
This is not set in concrete right now. If we go with option 3, which I think is a good option, and prices do keep going through the ceiling, and obviously we start losing money, we can reassess that, right, before the 10 years is over.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think option 3 at this point is a good option for us.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
it's only good for the first 5 years. We have to do another rate study after 5 years.
Right, 5 years. Well, even if we have to do it again in 2 years, at least we tried.
Yes.
Yeah, we have no crystal balls, so.
Okay, well, any other discussion, any public comment before we vote? Okay, I'm seeing nothing from Gary, so Wendy, we have a motion from Director DeAmbra and a second from Director Beard.
All right, so we have a motion by Director DeAmbra, a second by Director Beard to select option 3, the 0% for the first year, 4.25% for the next 4 years, and to authorize Clayton Tuckfield to reevaluate the capacity fees. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Director DeAmbra?
Aye.
Director Redford?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Very good. Then we will go to,
So with that being said, I want to thank Clayton for driving all the way out here, making the presentation, and we'll see him again next month. So it's a solid.
Okay.
thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, thanks.
Drive safe.
Okay, our next action item is Horizon Drive Mainline Project update, and I will turn that over to General Manager Topsdale.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Karen, I'm signing off now. Good night.
Okay, good night,
Good
Rick,
night,
thank you.
Rick.
All righty, thank you.
Okay, so we'll start off with item 1, which is the loan application. All paperwork is mentioned, yes.
I don't know if I can do this, I apologize in advance. And this question might be for Clayton, but do we do what if, we have assumptions, but do we ever do what if scenarios? I don't know enough about wastewater, but say we have unexpected events. Do we model those into any of these assumptions?
That's what your cash reserves are for. You've got an emergency reserve. So
Yeah.
when you see a contingency or something go wrong, that's what those reserves are there for.
Yeah.
They take it out, solve the problem, and then put it back up.
I see. I just noticed just because it, looks like with this Horizon Drive, moving forward with it, I know that your recommendation might be to hold off some other projects. That if that's a part of reserves or for those, what if contingencies it could get.
That's why you got cash reserves to handle this kind of problem.
Okay.
Or you see the truck going down with everybody with shovels, see if we can get it.
I just thought I'd ask, being my first official meeting, trying to better understand. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Clayton.
very much.
Thank you. See ya. Okay.
Yeah, you would feel bad if one of these what ifs happened, like, what if this collapsed and we don't have any money and we gave it all away?
Well, just because of the nature of what I see every year, there seems to be events, right? That and it's, you like to say it doesn't matter if they're environmentally related, but you got to kind of model them into, and if you get to that really dicey area where your cash reserves are very low, and that event hits, I don't know what happens.
That's Murphy's Law.
And it probably will happen.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just don't what would happen with our finances if indeed our reserves, were too low to.
And it would hit at the very low point.
Yeah, that's what I see here. And again, I don't know what could happen. This is part of my knowledge as I gain more knowledge is what really bad event could happen to us that would put us and our customers in a horrible situation. Right?
Texas, like if everything froze and our lines froze and, we could have a,
So one thing is, if you look on the CIP plan, we have the bracing of the Highway 246 Force Main. Well, that's an unanticipated event that could have happened. Because we are anticipating we're able to build it in, but if we didn't, that would be an unanticipated event.
Yeah.
Which is when you would reevaluate your reserve policy as well.
Yeah.
To state, the prices are increasing, so we know that to replace the main line doesn't cost $100,000 anymore, it costs $250,000, so we better build up our reserves to a different amount.
Do we have a short list of the unanticipated events that we know are potentially there that we can kind of see? There might be murky and fuzzy, but or are they really the unanticipated, or will be that blind to them?
I don't want to say we're that blind, it's just we don't have a list developed or compiled. But if we wanted to, we could compile a list of what an anticipated mainline break could cost.
region, right?
Yes.
Within the district, that most likely that would.
Well, that's what we do annually is we go out, we flush, we counter, we evaluate the system, and that's where we come up with a CIP plan. So then we find out, on San Ynez and Faraday here, we see that there's some root intrusion, we see the main lines are compromised, so we're gonna put that into our CIP to reinforce that main line, replace that main line, and that's when we would budget for that purpose. The unanticipated are hard to predict and to say.
Yeah.
We could say
Have a
a
person
cost.
tomorrow.
Yeah, we could get a cost.
No, I recognize that too. This just more relates to, this exercise on the options and looking at the multiple options. Every option really says that the reserves are gonna be dipping below 2, almost a little above 1. So you'd hate for that to happen at, on opportune time. And especially if you're completely blind to it and not prepared,
Yes.
that you don't have any plan in place even to mitigate. So.
Well, Wendy, what was the FEMA deal that we had about 3 or 4 years ago? FEMA,
That was a main sewer line break, and due to the heavy rains that we had,
that's right.
and we got reimbursed for all those costs from FEMA.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll ask more questions. This is part of my own knowledge, but thanks for letting me pass these.
No, we all
You
learn.
gotta catch up,
And this is
So
great,
You're gonna learn, yeah.
Wendy, you are officially our historian now. You're the senior person in this room, so, been going back 7 years, but a lot of these questions you have the answers for. Okay, so now we're gonna go to the Horizon Drive Mainline Project Update with General Manager Acosta.
Okay, so I'll go out to item 1, which is loan application. As mentioned, all paperwork for the application was submitted on time by December 31st for review by our project manager at the state level. Project manager has reviewed the application and given us a priority scoring, which I explained prior to previously, was priority scoring ranks us. The max you can get is 16 points on that. We discussed doing the climate action plan. We discussed other ways we can get all 16 points if we wanted to. The initial score that we received was 14 points out of 16 points. I do want to let the board know today, I received an email from our project manager that we actually received 1 more point. So we're up to 15 out of 16 points. So all the work of putting in that application, doing all the paperwork, doing all the reviews, score is 15 out of 16 points. That's well above 95% required. And just, you guys may get some satisfaction out of this, but not doing the climate action plan was in the area where we received that 1 point based off of our LAMP that we submitted, which was my initial inquiry with the state was here's our LAMP, this should qualify us for 3 points. Well,
When you say LAMP,
it's the local area management plan, which was to assess the septic tanks and the dangers that are presented to the groundwater. So I asked for 3 points. Initially, they said, no, you're only gonna get 2. That's why we talked about the climate action plan. But after her supervisor reviewed it, we ended up getting 3 points for that plan, so.
hey, sometimes it pays to play hard to get.
Yes, and we did go through with the climate action plan, which is good. So that's where we are. We're at 15 out of 16 points. So this is still on the table, it's still an option. She says, we're looking really good and that we're viable for receiving funds. But again, I want to remind the board that it could take up to 2 years to receive those funds if we went that route. So we've maintained communication with CSDA. Wendy, after this board meeting, probably early March, we're going to go back and get another quote from CSDA, so that way we can present that at the March board meeting and say this is the current rate. We're hoping it dropped again, but we'll be able to present that current rate at that time because we're getting close to hopefully financing this project and moving forward on it. So.
CSDA and state, we both asked for 700K each one?
Yes, we asked for 700, but based off of, that was the construction cost, but we also have all the other supplemental charges.
That you're adding on, so more than
Yes.
7?
It'll be more than
Okay.
7, or depending on what the bid comes in at. If the bid comes in at 5 and we're adding 100, we may only need 6. If the bid comes in at 8, we may be asking for 9. Instead, it's going to require the board to reevaluate and reassess what we want to do with that project.
So it'll cover everything. We won't be short on the loan. What we get is
think John said that we could go back to the state one time and ask for an increase.
Okay.
Yes.
I got a funny feeling that's gonna be the case, just the way things are going out there.
Move on to the easements. Hammer and Jewel is continuing its efforts to finalize the easement procurements with all 3 properties. The board's been kept informed on the progress of these discussions, and the board provided staff and Hammer and Jewel at last month's board meeting how to proceed on closing out the final 2 easements. Hammer and Jewel did conduct a visit last week with one of the properties, and the visit went fairly well. They asked her to follow up this week with them, so we'll see what they come back with this week. The 3rd property, the proposal has been modified based off the direction that staff gave at the closed session last month's meeting, and that'll be mailed out here in the next day or 2. So that'll be received, and then we'll have the discussions at that point. Later on in the staff and the board packet, you'll notice that Hammer and Jewel's requested an increase in fees, and we'll elaborate on those when we get to that staff report. The monitoring wells, I do want to mention that both monitoring wells have been in place after this storm. Monitoring well number 1, which is located in front of 3101 Horizon Drive middle, was showing a groundwater level 2.5 feet below surface. So at 2.5 feet below the surface, we were hitting water after that storm, which is proving of what has been stated out there, that the groundwater does sit and it does not percolate very well out there.
How deep were the wells, 25 feet?
They were drilled at 30 feet.
30 feet?
Yes.
So we have roughly 28 feet of water there.
That's roughly 28 feet of water, and we don't know if that's intrusion coming in from the sides into that well, or it is up. So, but the good news is that to date, it's at over 8 feet now down. So it's dropped over 6 feet down. And once the soil dries up, it starts to contract, you get the cracking, the water will start to percolate to the lower aquifers. Now, the driller's log did show that there is quite a bit of clay in that area. So that's obviously why it's not percolating as well. The well over by Refugio Drive is bone dry. We haven't hit no water there, but that did show more of a sandy soils in that area. So we'll continue monitoring these, and at that time, as we get closer to the project, we shouldn't have any major storms, but we can kind of see within a couple of weeks, we've dropped 6 feet. So we're hoping in another couple of weeks, we'll be down 6 feet. And in that main area, we're going to be down in the ground, I want to say between 10 to 15 feet in that area with the main line. The area where we're most concerned is at the one at Refugio Drive, because that's going to be at the deepest point, which is at almost 25 feet. So, and that's showing no standing groundwater at that well.
So we have one at the west end of Refugio, Horizon near Refugio.
Yes,
And then the other one is towards the center where it comes down to the low point?
yes, right in the middle of Horizon Drive.
Okay.
Yes. The engineering services, the district engineers received feedback from legal counsel and from staff on finalizing those documents. We're going to get those finalized and presented for board review at the March board meeting. At that time, we'll get approval from the board to move forward with those documents. Just so you guys are aware, you'll have some reading documents to read, some reading to do prior to that board.
Why'd you say that with a smile on your face?
I'm sorry, that was for the
For the bid documents.
bid
Because
document.
we want to get this out to bid after next month's meeting, just so, and that was the timeline I provided at last month's meeting as well, was we want to get it out to bid after next month's meeting, have a mandatory on-site contractor visit in April, and then get all bids finalized and submitted by the first week of May, review those, do a public opening, bring it back for the board to approve at the May board meeting, and hopefully anticipate starting June.
Madam President, I would like to say maybe we should have a special meeting when we start talking about bidding process.
We could do that as well.
That, I mean, that's something that if you don't get it right, you'll be on the hook for a long time. And I'd like us to digest that, banter back and forth, what you see, what you feel, what you think, so that we cover all the bases, if you will. That's, when you come to bidding, that's all the fine print that wasn't covered, or then you're gonna have a change order, you weren't in that, or we didn't sign on that we weren't going down 4 feet if we hit water. I just think the board is well served if we allocate a specific time for that specific task to digest it and come up with a solution that we're happy with and that Mr. Costa can represent. And I just.
Yeah, I'm open to that. I think it could be a great idea, and also to include the people who live on Horizon Drive. It would keep them more in the loop as to what all this money is being spent on and what things cost.
So I agree with that. I think it's a great thing to review it prior to that board meeting where we approve it. So what I'll do is I'll reach out to district engineer, see if he can put some fire under his feet to get this finalized and have it ready for review at a special board meeting prior to March's board meeting. The other option that the board could take is putting together a wastewater, a Horizon Drive ad hoc committee meeting, which we formed that ad hoc at last month's meeting. If we do that, then we can invite the Horizon residents at both, but that just is another option to do an ad hoc committee versus a special meeting. But direction will come from the board on which meeting you prefer. And I'll try to have those documents ready for that special meeting.
Okay, because an ad hoc committee meeting is open to the public and will be agendized, so that would involve 2 board members and staff and anyone else wanting to come.
The only holdback or drawback on the ad hoc is that all 5 board members couldn't sit there and discuss, debate, provide input.
I think it'd be better served as a special meeting than an ad hoc committee.
Okay,
So I will reach out to district engineer and try to get these approved and finalized, and we can have that meeting 1 week prior to the board meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And so that concludes the Horizon Drive project updates. Do I have any questions from the board or from the public?
Gary, do you have any questions?
That day would be March 10th.
Okay, Gary's fine, so you can move on to the Hammer and Jewel C, action item
Gary's
C.
signing off.
Hi, Gary.
Bye, Gary.
Bye-bye.
So I want to review the fiscal implications. On February 19, 2020, your board approved the proposal for the right-of-way acquisitions with Hammer and Jewel. This proposal was in a not to exceed amount of $23,500. This was a time and material consultant agreement, and the project has exceeded the estimated time and material cost. Hammer and Jewel's requesting an increase in that budget of $7,500. The only alternative is for the board not to proceed with the procurement of the easements required for the completion of the Horizon Drive project. If the board chooses this alternative, then we would sit back down and reevaluate an alternative route for the project. The work conducted by Hammer and Jewel and Associates, it started in 2016 when we were discussing this project and how we're going to move forward. In 2017, the board placed the project on hold. At that time, they came back to the board, and in February of last year, the board approved the contract with Hammer and Jewel to start the easement procurement process again. And that was for 23.5. The proposal for the following, so the proposal was for the following service: acquisition service for 3 parcels between Highway 246 and Horizon Drive, obtaining 1 appraisal and 2 initial internal evaluations of the properties, and other costs such as mileage, printing, postage, communication, attendance at board meetings, etc. So that was what would be covered by the $23,500. Other language was included that they would be completed for, this would be cover costs for work completed for the calendar year 2020, and that they had estimated about 135 hours. We've reached that 135 hours or neared it, and we've actually went into January of 2021 with the initial contract as well. Few reasons for the proposed increases: the need to obtain another appraisal. Initially, we only had 1 appraisal on 1 of the properties, but we needed to get the second appraisal based off of where we were with the dialogue and discussion with getting the easement for 1 of the properties down there. The need for extended communication with district legal counsel and attendance at the board meetings. So that was required because of the closed session meeting, and also the district legal counsel having to review these contracts a few times based off of the modifications and the need for appraisals and additional work required by Hammer and Jewel. To continue and complete the extended negotiations for the last 2 parcels that we're trying to get the easements through, and continue assisting the district on lien clearance, title analysis for all three acquisitions. So once we get that, we'll finish up the process by getting the liens and the clearance and the title completed as well.
And this should put the baby to bed here, this extra 79, because I think part of the problem was we all bent over backward to accommodate one person, and it ended up costing more time and money for us. And so, I remember back in maybe 2016, the gentleman that was working on getting the easements then is like, they either give them to us or we go to court and get them, it's no big deal. He was not for any drawn out, work with people kind of approach. And I can kind of see where he's coming from now. He has a lot of experience with this. So I don't see what else we can do but finish up.
And Kathy did state that this is the anticipated amount. She says will get us through this project, given the easements. I do want to remind the board that these costs that were approved with Hamner and Jewel do not include the purchase price that we're paying for the easements as well.
Does this,
Simply for the right.
does this also include if we end up going to eminent domain?
That does not, at that point in time, it would be handed back over to the district and those fees would be passed on to legal counsel.
Right, well, that, I'm
Yes.
talking about just for Hammer and Jewel.
Yes, just for Hammer and Jewel. At that point, they'd say, here you go, guys, looks like you guys.
You gotta do this so that I can finish what I gotta do.
Yes.
Okay,
So, and they would.
they're not gonna come back to the well again,
No, they better not.
and that's
At
what I
that
want.
point in time, they better not.
Yeah, okay. All right,
So we're looking for a motion, or do I have any questions from the board?
Are there any questions, Director Redfern? No?
No.
Okay, then we are looking for a motion to increase, let's see, how did we say it here?
Approved proposal for increased
Oh, I'm
budget.
on B, that's why it doesn't look right. We need a motion to increase the budget by $7,500 for Hammer, Jewel and Associates to complete the easement acquisitions for the Horizon Drive project. Do I have a motion?
Yes, if we underline the word complete,
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
Director Deambra has made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Director Beard has seconded the motion. Wendy.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Deambra, a second by Director Beard to approve the proposal for increased budget of $7,500 by Hamner and Jewel and Associates to complete the easement acquisition for the Horizon Drive project. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Van Pelt,
Abstain.
Director Deambra,
Reluctantly, aye.
and Director Redfern.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, so now we go to action item D, approval of office space storage remodel. And so that will go to General Manager Costa.
Yes, so I'll give a quick dialogue on the project and I'll turn it over to Wendy. She's the one who got the quotes and the estimates and has been involved with this project. The cost of office remodel purchases was estimated about $50,000 when we budgeted for this, and which was reviewed by the finance committee, later approved by the board based off including a security wall at the front of the office as well. So the cost for both offices as well would be approximately $31,500 based off of the estimates and the way we broke it down in purchases of the for both office areas and the wall.
So we budgeted 50, but you're saying it's going to cost about 31?
$31,500 if we approve what we're proposing this evening.
Can you assure this board that there won't be a $7,500 cost overrun on that?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm gonna turn it over to Wendy so that she can provide more information.
Okay, so for the wall, based on the.
Is this Trump's wall?
Yes. Nobody will be allowed in. As requested by the board, it was suggested that we look at getting a wall to block off the front office. And so I contacted several local contractors, and they were either too busy or it wasn't in their scope of work. So I did contact, the Tri-County Office Furniture and Santa Barbara Office Interiors, and I received 2 quotes for them. I did contact Mark Hemme as well, and he came in and he said that to do non-glass wall, it would just be like way too difficult because you have to do the both sides, the front and the back, drywall it, and whatever you do as building a wall. So he suggested that we contact Brothers Glass, and Brothers Glass was supposed to bring me a quote today, by today. I heard nothing from them, and they didn't show up. So we have 2 quotes for glass wall. Santa Barbara Office Interiors was $10,895, and that would be a solid glass wall with a reception counter window, and then a locking door as well. And then Tri-County Office Furniture also submitted a quote for $19,000. So with discussion with Jose, we recommend doing the $10,858 wall.
I have a question.
Yes.
Does that have like a buzzer that you can buzz them in? You said locking door, but is it like a buzzer that you could sit at your desk and buzz people in?
We didn't do a buzzer, no.
You can add those on.
We can't, I mean,
So what I mentioned.
I don't think they're that much money.
Yeah, and what Wendy and I discussed is what kind of mechanism do we want to put on there? Do we just want to put locking handle with the buzzing if we want to do that? Or do we want to put a key code on there too as well? So, but we can look at those options, and like Mr. Jammer says, they don't cost a whole bunch,
Right,
but we can add that on after.
right, yeah. I mean,
And
I
that
just
won't be
can't see you
7,500.
getting up every time and walking around, somebody needs to come in the door,
yeah,
you know?
so, well, that's why we thought about putting like a key code, and then we just give the key.
Well, yeah, for staff.
Yeah.
But then you,
Well, really, nobody would need to come in because we'd have a reception counter.
okay, with
And
a glass.
If they did need to come in, they'd be meeting with some of the staff, and
Yeah.
Wendy can call us over to the door for.
I have a question.
Yes, Director Redfern.
There's a company in Buellton called Wildwood Door Factory. They deal with doors and glass. I've had a couple of business dealings with them, and they're very good and very affordable. I think somebody should try contacting them also.
Okay. We can do it not to exceed, that's where you guys want to go.
Okay, so I like that because you know what's gonna work for you. We have to authorize spending the money, but I would be comfortable having this board make a motion to go ahead and do this with an amount not to exceed.
Okay,
So,
so that was it on the wall, and then I also contacted Tri-County Office Furniture and the Santa Barbara Office Interiors, and they both came out and did they looked at the office, they looked at the general manager's office, and we're looking at doing panels around my desk and getting a counter, a workspace all the way around, and then 2 new file cabinets for storage because we're out of storage. And then with the general manager's office, he's gonna get a new desk, and they both include stand-up desks, so it will be raised so you can stand. It'll be more ergonomic. And then a meeting table in the general manager's office. And then yet another quote, so we can bring 3 prices to you guys. I contacted a company, I think it's called Furniture Installation Team. And he came out, he was our last quote. He gave us a quote of $12,000, but I tried to get him, I told him 3 times, like, I need more storage, I need more office space and desk space, and he just like didn't hear me. So I didn't like his design at all. My favorite for myself is the Tri-County Office furniture one, and then Jose, for his office, he liked the Santa Barbara office interiors. So,
Is there an advantage to having one company do both, or does it matter?
it was cost. So mine, through, Tri-County, the Tri-County one and the Santa Barbara office interiors would be fine for both of us. I liked the design from Tri-County better, than the Santa Barbara office interior. I didn't like the furniture installation one at all. I don't think it doesn't serve a purpose for me. I might as well just keep what I have. Because he didn't give me storage, he didn't give me an extra, work counter. I did a cost analysis, and the way we have it recommended, Tri-County was cheaper for me, and the Santa Barbara office furniture was less expensive for Jose, so that's why we went those routes, because they were the least expensive between the two that we liked.
So there is an advantage to getting it all from one place or
I
the
don't
other.
think we should be picking what you have. I think we should say, yes, here's a dollar amount,
Pick something you like.
do what you're gonna do.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Okay,
You guys are working with it, that'll make you happy.
works.
I concur 100%.
And the
Until
only
Mr. Beard
question,
stole my words.
then the question I have is, Director Redfern's suggestion was regarding the glass door, and so you can still follow up and get a quote.
That's why I say, let them,
So what we could say is not to exceed the amount of $31,500, inclusive of glass walls.
do
That's currently
you
what-
expect any change orders?
No, we do not. And if anything, we're gonna save more money than that if we do get a better price with the proposal that Mr. Redfern has presented, so.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion right now to authorize staff to make remodel purchases not exceeding 32,000. Is that right?
That's it.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, so Director DeAmber has made a motion,
I'll second that.
and Director Van Pelt has seconded it. Wendy?
All right, so we have a motion by Director DeAmber. We have a second by Director Van Pelt to authorize remodel purchases not to exceed $32,000. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Director DeAmber?
Aye.
Director Redfern?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Okay, and now we will go to 6E and review and discuss CSDA board training for SYCSD board members. Director Manager Acosta.
So I will present tonight several dates, several options on training that the board take for improving or just gaining knowledge on board governance. And the prices range between $875 to $4,500, and even higher based off of the third option that will be presented this evening as well. But the board also has an option to apply for a scholarship, and I'll explain that as well. So the general manager was asked by your board president to research and inquire regarding board trainings available for your board to attend. I reached out to CSDA regarding the options for your board and to receive these trainings. Based on the feedback from CSDA, the recommended training for the board was governance function foundations training. This is a training that I took initially when I arrived here. I gained a lot of information and knowledge on how boards should interact, how I should interact with boards as well. It's very good training. It's long, and it's got a lot of talk and some jargon in it, but it was very good training. So some of the information that would be gained by attending this training would be, what are boards and how did they get here? They discuss how boards form, how did we start forming boards, why do we need boards? What I think about governance, they'll answer questions on why we need to be understanding and knowledgeable on how to govern and how to perform tasks as a board. How do boards achieve unity of purpose? That's something that, they explain is how the board can be cohesive, maybe not always agreeing, maybe not always understanding, but how to make a presence of unity as a board. Process and steps for your boards can take to building unity of purpose, and qualities and skills of effective directors, and how boards carry out their mission effectively. So those are some of the topics that will be gained. This training can be provided in, it says 2 manners here. I'm going to present a third manner as well. Third manner, I doubt it's going to be accepted, but I'll present it.
Well, that's a way to pitch it.
Well, once I pitch it, you'll understand why. So, sorry. The virtual workshop or in-person training or attendance to the CSDA or to the SDLA seminar, which is in Tahoe on September 26th and 29th. That would be a third option. But that would require all board members to travel there and it'd be within that specific time. So the dates of the virtual workshop currently scheduled with CSDA are from March 24th and 25th, and they're split up into 3 hours both those days. It's a total of a 6-hour course, but they're breaking it up into 3 hours a day. So it'd be from 1 to 4 p.m. on March 24th and March 25th. The second option would be to have CSDA staff come out to the district and provide the training on site. And that was going to be at a cost of approximately $4,500. You must have a minimum of 20 attendees. If you have 20 attendees, the charge would be $225 per person. So what Wendy suggested and has done is she's reached out to several local agencies to garner some interest from them as well. How many feedbacks have you received?
Just one.
Just one feedback so far with one board member possibly attending as well, if we brought it on site. So.
And did you reach out to CSDs or also like water or city council?
All Santa Barbara County special districts. So that's cemetery, fire, mosquito, all that. I did like a group email.
Would it be inappropriate to meet with non-special districts, like if it was to Santa Barbara County government kind of thing?
They
don't like to cross stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the training is specific to special districts.
Okay. Well.
And then,
okay.
sorry, I'm going to go into the third option.
Okay.
The third option is to attend the Special District Leadership Academy, which is September 26th through September 29th at Lake Tahoe. The registration for that is $600 per board member. And then you also have hotel at $200 a night, plus food and mileage as well for that.
Does that cover our airfare first class going up there?
No, for
5-star, white tablecloth dinner. Since none of us have been able to go anywhere. No.
It is an option to the board as well.
Maybe get that vacation.
And there is budgeted money for those trainings as well. I just want to present all 3 options for the board.
I would really like to have it here in-house and be able to interact and ask questions and, rather than sit and take a seminar. I think it would have a lot more impact. And while I understand that that's expensive, we have had 0 board training. Nobody in this room has. And, I'm the senior board member and I have yet to, I do it on my own and I've read some books that have been very helpful to me. And I've taken some online things just to learn for myself. But I think that it would make a healthier, stronger board, and I think we could all benefit.
Is this board training for specific to CSD, or is this board training in general?
It's in general to this, it's specific to CSD, how a board should work as CSD.
Yeah.
Now,
I've taken several board training classes.
This is specific to CSD,
Yeah.
California law, and also, like I said, one of the big things is the purpose of unity. How to build that unity of purpose. So, the option, if we did bring them here to conduct the training, which is $4,500, we'd get to finalize a date, we'd have to select a date, because Wendy would continue reaching out to these CSDs and try to get more input to minimize our costs. But like I say, it's a minimum of 20 attendees at $225 per attendee. We can't charge them any more or any less based off the attendees that come here. We would just have to pay the $4,500 and collect $225 from each attendee who comes from the outside. Now that training would be a 1-day training. So they'd be here on site and they'd be able to complete that training here. As I mentioned earlier, the CSD may also qualify for a scholarship. based off of their, what they state online is you have to have a budget of less than $8 million to be considered for the scholarship, which we meet that criteria. So you get a scholarship in the amount of $1,500. So we can offset that cost, $1,500 for getting that scholarship. Based off of the cost for the 5 board members to attend the 2-day workshop, which would be, it's not as interactive, which is very important, as President Jones stated, is $875 if all board members are willing to come in for 2 days, 3 hours a day, would be $875. That would be covered by the complete scholarship as well.
Wendy, there hasn't been a local CSD meeting that used to have on Mondays, one night a month. There's been none of that.
They're by Zoom, but it's not like it was in person for the local chapter, CSDA.
And those aren't necessarily trainings, those are more of a get to know your CSDA members, and also they'll bring in speakers sometimes to speak on different topics. But
Well, I was just wondering about the networking of it, if people were missing each other and wanting, but
Yes.
you did hear from Vandenberg, so
And
that's
they're
good.
only held quarterly.
Right, the last one I went to was the end of the month one.
You know, I think we're spending a lot of money. I think that the 3-hour twice would probably do the job. How much more are we going to gain from having somebody come and talk to us? Yeah, we're going to be able to answer some questions, but it's most likely they do this all the time and they cover most of the questions that a special our district's going to have. And we're going into a time that we don't know what the economy is going to do. I think we should play it kind of, safe and not spend a lot of money.
I agree with that, but I also think that it can be money well spent if we're spending a lot of time and money on attorney's fees or on things that maybe could be avoided. And I also think board unity, board protocol, some of that stuff is a good investment.
I don't know. It just seems awful expensive at $4,000.
If you received a scholarship, it would be $3,000.
Still awful expensive.
Okay, and maybe a couple 3-hour things, or maybe people don't feel like we need the training. I thought our last meeting was rough. I thought our last meeting had inappropriate interaction in it, and I think we can do better.
I agree. I love training. I just concerned about us spending a lot of money. That's all.
No, and I get that. I felt the same way a little bit about the remodeling, but I thought, it's going to make work be more efficient. And maybe this isn't something that's important to other people, but I felt that way after our last meeting. I did not feel like we were behaving as a board should, and I thought part of that had to do with experience, training, and there's a lot to learn.
I agree. There's a lot to learn. I just like to do it in the most efficient way, I guess, or cost-friendly way to who we represent.
It seems like if you have more interest from other parties, then the 4,500 could be justified as a lower cost. Even if we get 1,500, it seems like the cost per head, say we get a full 6, seems quite expensive. I agree with you, Director Jones, that Director Redford, it's trainings, I think, good. I would love to do the virtual. I think if we cover our costs and it's no cost to us, we get the scholarship, even if it's $175. If I read that for a board member, I would definitely make the time available to come here and do that. But I'm happy for any type of training.
That's how I feel, and I do agree that it's unrealistic to think we're all going to go to Tahoe in September. So I would be happy with whatever support we can get. I think that we could all benefit from this, but I understand that, you know, those of us that want to get it anyway. So I would just like to have it with my peers so there could be some clarification on what's appropriate and not appropriate.
Well, we couldn't do the virtual one in the meeting room all together, all 5 of us listening, and then after 3 hours, have our notes and question each other or talk it out.
So that's exactly what we would do, Director Redfern. We would present it here. All 5 board members would be in the room.
Right.
Attend the training, and throughout the training, I do want to state that they do some interactive where they send you to rooms with other districts and you discuss stuff with them and they present ideas and they have opportunity for question and answer as well. So, but then again, at the end of the 3 hours, you guys can sit down and reevaluate what you've learned and discuss that amongst yourselves as well.
Oh, so it's with other districts are a part of this?
Yes, so it's attendees from all over. When I went, there were people all over California, board members from all over California were in attendance at this
So
training.
that's why it's set up one date for all
Yes,
different. Okay.
yes. So that's another benefit of doing it this way, is that you can hear from other CSDs that aren't necessarily nearby or that you already have knowledge on as well.
I'm sorry, but did they have a specific date for that?
Yes, March 24th and 25th would be the date from 1 to 4 p.m. both those dates.
What day of week?
I want to say it's a Wednesday, Thursday. Yes, because the 17th is on Wednesday, so Wednesday, Thursday.
March is going to be a busy month.
It would be,
Yeah,
we would have a
we'll do
special
that.
meeting, we'd have a board meeting, and then we'd have this training.
Yes. Well, I am open to whatever my colleagues want to do.
Seems intriguing to have, as if we were to conduct just an in-person one, and we had us 5, right? Versus having a virtual one with many other CSDs, that kind of seems intriguing.
Right, yeah. I
And
guess,
for the price, it's almost hard now to pass that up. But again, I know it's a time commitment, so it's worth to factor that in. 1 to 4. Get to take work off.
well, I'm very happy to do that. So, is there a motion?
I can recommend a motion based off of feedback that I've heard from the board.
Sure.
So the recommendation is to have direct staff to schedule attendance of all 5 board members on March 24th, 25th from 1 to 4 p.m. through the virtual workshop, which would be conducted here at the CSD boardroom.
I will make the motion. Generally, I don't, but I will. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Wendy, I made the motion. Director Redfern seconded it.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Jones and a second by Director Redfern to direct staff to schedule the in-house training on March 24th and 25th for the board government. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Director D'Ambra?
Aye.
Director Redfern?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay,
We'll get on this register if we want it. Send you guys your confirmation. You should get confirmation email once you're registered as well.
very good. Thank you. And now we shall go to action item F. And this is the newsletter, so General Manager Acosta.
Yes, in June of 2020, the board directed staff to start sending out a semi-annual newsletter to all residents and all customers within the CSD boundaries. So this is the second of that the winter newsletter that will be going out. Attached is a draft newsletter for your board to review, consideration, and input. Included in the newsletter is information regarding the flushing of wipes down the drain. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a lot of people are making this a thing because it does clog up the pumps, it does cause issues. Even though those wipes say they're flushable, they do cause damage at the treatment plants, they cause damage at our pumps as well. So they don't necessarily break down right away.
Maria's done a big push with that.
There's a big nice commercial out with one of the Santa Maria employees who does a song and a dance on it, but the CSD web links, so that way everyone knows information regarding the Horizon Drive project is on here as well, so they give some information for anyone who has any questions or wants to just see what we're doing down at Horizon Drive. It explains that we have the availability of sandbags, especially during this time, although we haven't got any rain, but during that 1 week where we did get heavy rains, we did have quite a bit of traffic through here. We had quite a few people come in. They were very thankful. They came by, said thank you. They were very yes.
Yes, it's a very nice service.
Yeah, it is.
My husband didn't know it, and he was so excited he could come get sandbags.
It was also advertised on the local news as well, and I believe in the newspaper as well, that we were one of the locations that provides that service. Information regarding the disposal of fats, oils, and grease, that's a continuous thing that we have to remind people of. You know, your fats, oils, and grease can't just go down the drain. People think hot water gets rid of it in garbage disposal, but once it makes its way into the sewer system, it gets cold again, it heats up, and it starts to clump up the system as well. And our featured employee of this newsletter is Mr. Kevin McKinnon. Kevin's been with us probably the second longest tenured field employee after Craig. He's our operator who runs the wastewater treatment plant out there as well. So, the board and staff remain committed to providing and sharing information regarding the business of the CSD with its residents. And so this will be a tool to be able to do that for the community. So if the board wants to review it, provide any feedback on if you want to add anything, omit anything, and maybe some possible suggestions for the next newsletter, which will be coming out in about 5 to 6 months for the summer newsletter.
I'm really happy with it. It's funny, I don't know if you remember how hard it was to get a newsletter. Me and Director Mueller fought hard to get one, and it turned into a big long thing. Then you and we finally actually have a newsletter.
And speaking of newsletters, I know if we are going to go forward with the 0% increase, we would make that a special newsletter that we would mail out to all customers. So, because I was thinking the board may want to include that on here, but we wouldn't have that timeline to be able to release this in time. But we could do a special newsletter.
The whole thing, it was like a war, it was like a felony to get these to come out. Those from the past.
We couldn't afford it. It's funny.
They didn't respond anyway. That was the answer. They didn't respond anyway. So you're not supposed to respond. We're supposed to inform. And one page like this, it's not overwhelming and it's done.
Does this come in a regular envelope, folded, kind of?
Yes.
How's it mailed in a regular envelope?
So one thing to consider is that if we waited a month, we would save some costs on postage. But I think the board wants to send out a special one just with the costs increase that way people receive that. But that could be something to consider as well, so save the postage.
When it comes to cost, this isn't something I would be concerned about saving money, because I think this can build to the rapport you truly need for support in the things you do here, because you keep them informed. We were never that informed, and people were drawing conclusions because they hear rumors and innuendos. This is just a good factual thing. You don't want to read it, you don't have to, but here's the option. It's on your desk. Look at it, and it's informative. And the fact that you want to put in that we're a 0% loan, something like that, shows them that we're doing things working in their best interest. I fought for this long before I got here.
Yes.
Do you want to hold off for a month?
I could do that. I mean, for 18 years we didn't get one. Now,
Well, I say hold off for a month to save the cost savings of sending out another newsletter.
I would think that's environmentally a good idea too.
Yeah, we could actually make the wipes thing smaller, or drop it in trade places with the rate study.
I would also like just have a protocol on this, that we keep it like this, one page. I don't think there's, you start getting more, the more things are agreed, the less interest people are. I think everything we need to say could be said concisely and a front and back. And that's
I
plenty.
kind of think we leave the wipes the same, maybe reduce this print a little bit here.
What print?
The fall.
Oh, in the back?
The back, move a little bit this this down and definitely on the front page have it say that we're not increasing the
We can
rates.
reword that area as well, a bit to condense the wording on there, the verbiage on there as well, and
Yeah.
maybe make it smaller.
I mean, I think this costs us a lot of money. And what I mean by in repairs, this needs to be bowled out front. And, you know, and could these actually be combined a little bit by also saying grease and, you know, I'm not trying to change it. I'm just trying to think of how we can get also in there that we're not increasing the rate studies on the front page.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking on the front page as well, so
Yeah.
I was thinking if we move Horizon Drive project update, rate study and sandbags, that portion to the back, and condense the fog a bit, condense Kevin's section a bit, just make it a little bit smaller maybe,
Yeah.
and then shrink down and keep the pipes a bit, but keep it there on the front page, and then put an announcement about the rates on the front page.
Okay.
I would write something up, I would include it, again, I would review it, put something in here about rates, and have it available for approval at the next board meeting.
Well, we would need the rate study portion of it because we'll be talking about the rates.
That's absolutely correct as well.
So
What
that's,
if you,
So if we take Horizon off and put it on the back and the sandbags, put that on the back, and we can just make that whole section there on the rate study.
And Director Redfern had a comment.
we want our customers to read this and we want them to read all of it. Is that correct?
Yes,
What if we put a line on there and we don't put the rate study up bold in front, but we put a line that says something like, we have a special surprise for you if you read this entire paper. In the middle on the back, you put, we're not raising our rates this year. Congratulations for reading our newsletter. Thank you. It makes them read it. Just an idea. You don't have to like it.
you might think people are more engaged than they are.
Right, I know, but they won't read it anyways if you don't do something like that.
But I have confidence that Jose and Wendy, based on what I'm seeing here, can hammer out something that works.
Yeah.
And will get maximum attention. I don't know if you guys know who Polycretus is, but he was a sculptor. And he did one by committee and one by himself, and the one he did by himself was the better piece of art.
So what we'll do is we'll condense the front and bring out fog, leave it to the front, shrink Kevin's a bit, and then put the announcement that there are no rate increases on the back. We'll put something small on the front page that says, read the whole letter for the surprise that the board has for you, or something to that effect. On the front.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And we will bring this back at next month's meeting for approval so that we can mail it out there.
Okay, sounds good. That's just consensus, we don't need to vote on anything. Okay. And then, now we move to informational items.
One other add to that, I know this is, it's not, I'm not a marketer, but would we be able to somehow put a stamp on the, considering it's an envelope, almost a stamp 0% rating increase? Now, I don't know, Director Beard might go against someone reading the front and back, but if we want someone to open it up or, 0% rating information.
entice them to open it.
Yeah, entice them
You mean?
like a stamp on the envelope, right? Because every time I pick up something, if it's pertaining to me, I'm interested in, well, I'm definitely going to open it up, so I throw it in the trash. So it would take, to me, it would make someone interested in what the 0% rate increase information.
That's taking
You can
Director
do-
Redfern's to the
Can you
next
print it and
level.
print on the envelopes?
No, because we can only print the address. I mean, we could maybe put.
You
it-
really wanna make them read it, you put that there's gonna be a big increase on the
Yeah.
apple.
That's what I was saying. Read your increase
And everybody.
Yes, amount of annual increase to be included at end of newsletter.
Yes.
We could get a stamp that says rate increase info inside.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah, I just think it would, how many,
Because if you put 0% rate increase, they'll be like, oh, we don't have an increase, so we'll just throw it in the trash can.
yeah, Yeah, I like anything that gets someone to actually open it up. I think it's easy. It seems like to throw some of these right in the trash and not even.
What's a stamp cost?
$20. You get a rubber stamp?
Yeah.
$20.
And Bob actually volunteers to come in and stamp all the envelopes.
I even do passports like that.
Don't you like the way I
Yes.
volunteered
I-
it?
It's just an idea, yeah.
Yeah.
all that, it's,
We want people to read it and put a lot of effort into it. I think it's fun.
that's
I mean,
keeping with.
Being someone who lives down
direction.
here, right, if it's something about the rate increase, it'll probably get my eye to look at it, because I'm always looking at stuff that talks about the increases, so, you know, pretty interesting, so.
Yes.
Okay, so then, 7, no informational items, then we go to reports, and we will go to, General Manager Acosta's report.
Several bullet points here on ongoing with CSD and actions and things taken on by the general manager. General manager and staff attended the opening for the aeration, the bids for the aeration project for the city of Salt Lake. The bids came in higher than they anticipated. They anticipated the project being for 1.9. Speaking to Mr. Van Linden, he said that they had contingencies in there for it to come in at about 2.1, 2.2. But the bids came in between 3.5 at the high end and 2.29 at the low end.
That's a 2x4, so that $8 piece is what that is.
And so the low bid was by Cushman Construction at $2,829,200. So $2,829,200. If we take our 20% portion of what we have to pay for that, it comes out to approximately $565,840. We conducted a home visit meeting on January 24th with Horizon Drive residents to discuss and address the concerns regarding the project and the easement acquisition progress. We thought it was a good meeting. We walked away with some positive feedback to the customer, and we thought it was a good meeting.
Which customer was that?
This was with Mrs. Larson.
Okay.
We coordinated and attended a Zoom meeting with Los Osos Community Services District, which is the community service district I came from. Prior to me leaving there, their GIS system, I wanted to enhance their GIS system with a work order system that was more user-friendly, something that the guys can do with the tablet out in the field, be able to do work order system. So found this company, it's called Diamond Maps. So when I got here, I mentioned that to staff that we should look into that. So what we've done is we've contacted our own current GIS system that we have, which is Z-World. We've gotten some information. It's a great system. Not taken away from what they can provide, but I feel the services that we give for them are not worth what we pay for it. They definitely have a ton of customers, bigger entities, bigger facilities that they manage, and it's probably a great service for them. But this Diamond Maps is something that we're going to consider, we're going to look at that time. Once we get more information on it, we'll bring it back to the board for more dialogue, more discussion, and approval on final purchase. The cost for this project, I think, was like $60 a month. They've included now a new work order system on that. So we're trying to do is coordinate with Los Osos CSD as they just implemented it, and doing some Zoom meetings and some phone teleconference with them to get more information on how they like it and if it's something that would suit us. Attended the special board meeting on February 3rd. We also, during that meeting, we helped facilitate the vacant board seat and presented the board on the status of the easement procurements for Horizon Drive. Staff conducted new board member orientation with Director Van Pelt on February 5th. We're very excited to have Mr. Van Pelt on board and look forward to the insight and leadership he'll bring to the board. Congrats again, Mr. Van Pelt. Conducted several phone meetings with financial consultants, Huckfield and Associates, which, as we said, we reviewed his PowerPoint and information, presented him with several options to present to the board of the city. Staff has contacted Nigro to let them know that the board has approved the contract with them to perform our financial auditing services for the next 3 fiscal years.
Okay, can I ask questions?
Yes. Yes.
With Tuckfield Associates, we have a contract, an ongoing contract with them. What's
For the rate study, yes.
for the rate study? Is it like billable hours? Is it
Yes.
okay, billable hours? What do we, can I
Yeah,
ask what they bill us at?
He's $175 an hour.
I believe the contract was for 6,500 or for the, or was it 10,000?
That was 10.
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah.
So we
And he
just, we
said-
approved a budget amount of 10.
Yeah, and he's at 66%.
It's at 60.
So, but with the capacity fee, he'll bill us at $175 an hour and we'll exceed the 10.
Okay.
When we reevaluate capacity charges.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, continue the correspondence with legal counsel on review of how his attendance is required or needed at board meetings. We're trying to realize some cost savings for the CSD on legal fees. So what we've concluded at this time is that legal counsel will attend the board meetings as needed on agenda items as needed. They'll continue reviewing contracts and documents that are required and provide feedback on that. But what we want to do is possibly for a year, review the cost savings and the benefit of not having him in attendance at every meeting. Then reevaluate if we want to go further than that, see if we can minimize even more of the cost of him.
I have a question on that. Was
Yes.
it 82,000 we spent last year on attorneys? Does that sound right?
I would just be guessing. I know it was a lot and
It
it's
was
more than we
82.
budgeted.
For some reason, that number comes up, and we had nothing we could do about that. That was just a bad year.
I have, so for 1920, we spent $108,489. In 1819, we spent $40,047. In 1718, we spent $72,850. In 1617, we spent $43,477, and in 1516, we spent $24,492.
Adding the labor attorney costs definitely upped it some and negotiated.
Transition.
Yes.
Okay, you sent out a flyer, an email, I think it was. Retainer, as opposed to, do we save anything with a retainer? Or is it to our advantage just to pay him when we need him? Or does the retainer charge kind of massage the fact that he's not being paid all the time for coming to the meetings? Is that, give him more money? Is it to our advantage to keep him on retainer? What is the cost? And what does the retainer give us?
So
Does it give us hours at a time we can talk to him, or is it strictly to have him return our calls?
Generally, a retainer, it's your hours are charged against the retainer. You pay an attorney a 20,000 retainer, and then he does his billable hours against that until a certain point.
So I think that exactly as Director Jones stated is you pay your retainer fee up front, but he's gonna base that retainer fee based off of past services. So he's gonna do an analysis, like Wendy has done, compiled all the fees that we paid over the last 5 years. He's gonna do an estimate. Here's your $70,000 retainer fee that you need to pay this year. He'll bill it on billable hours, so we'll end up paying whatever we actually have him perform.
Okay, so how is that different?
Actually,
It's a bank account that he draws out of, the attorney would draw out of on an hourly use. How is that any different than him coming here and spending 5 hours, we paying him for 5 hours? There is no difference, I see that.
The 5 hours wouldn't be deducted if he's not
No,
here.
you're missing my point.
Oh, okay.
My point is, you give him a retainer, let's say $25,000, and that's a resource he will draw from and give us the credit of the hours worked, okay? That is really not any different than we paying him the same hours like he's doing now. He just has a resource to pull from. I'm wondering if it's just better we call him or any attorney and pay him what we need for the services that they offer at that specific time. I don't see a retainer being to our benefit. If we're paying X amount of dollars for a service and he's gonna bill us on an hourly basis, he's billing on an hourly basis now, is he not?
Yes, and so that's why we're not paying a retainer. What we're gonna do is he's gonna do billable hours based off of.
Okay, so there is no attorney, no, okay.
There's no
because
retainer.
Okay, well, I saw that. It said we were gonna go to a retainer.
No, that was an option.
Okay,
We presented.
that's
That
good.
was dialogue him and I have had, and so the best option I feel right now is for us to have him attend meetings, to do work as
When
needed.
needed.
Yes,
Okay.
when needed.
I think,
That was
when
the option that became. What
okay,
I wanted to do was share with the board the dialogue the attorney and I were having. So here's what we're having, here's the dialogue, here's the options he's presented, him and I will discuss this further. Because I know it was important, so I want to make sure the board knows we are addressing this, we are looking into this. So that's why I shared that email.
How long has Tuckman Associates been providing analysis and reports to
We did our last rate study for
Rate study,
5 years, the prior one,
the prior one? Okay.
yes.
And everyone seems they appreciate his contributions in this analysis, and I'm just wondering if they feel that what he's
I just want
providing.
to make sure that you went back to the rate study and we're not talking about legal counsel.
No, not legal counsel, more the rate study. Yeah.
I believe everyone was impressed or happy with his services the last rate study.
I have a question that has to do with that though. With accounting services, we want to change every couple of years. That best practices, but is that true for a rate study as well?
No, because rate study is just figures. It's just solid figures that he's gonna look at, do his analysis, and then give you that information. He's not making suggestions. He's not telling you do this project, don't do that project. He's not telling you what to spend. We're giving him those figures.
Neither is the accountant. They're doing our audit based on what we give them. But I was just wondering if there was a best practices with rate studies as there is with accounting.
We,
Go ahead.
sorry, we went out to bid before he did his, the first rate study. And because he was involved within that 5-year period, he was already involved with the Horizon Drive and all that. If we went out to bid again, we would have to pay for all that information all over again.
Okay, that makes sense.
So
Okay,
it's best to keep him to finish this out, and then, you know, if we have to do another one, we can either go out to bid or we can just, you know, do it again. I mean, it would be up to you guys. But at this point in time, it would be not cost effective to switch.
there's no advantage in it.
No.
Okay.
And then I also add, so in those, that was all the legal fees that we paid. I'm adding up, in 1920, we had, 5, 8, 10, 11, 12. About 14,000 of that was paid to, Atkinson, for Nate's time. So the figures I gave you weren't just Rick's time, I just want to clarify that, it was all legal fees. And then in 1819, we paid 7,000 to Atkinson, for Nate. And then in 1718, we paid 4,000 to Nate plus, so that was the union station, I do believe, so that was 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 12 is 25. So that was 25,000 in 17, so not all of that was for us.
And last year was us getting the transition and us dealing with several employee issues and us getting our feet wet.
Yes,
Cover the cost that he was serving as an interim general manager as
Yes.
well, which requires a lot of hours.
Right.
Although technically he was not.
Yeah.
He makes that point. He was not the acting general manager, but he was doing a lot of legal work
Yes.
in the absence of a general manager.
Right.
Yes.
You know, that's a fee I think we could really bring down.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it come down like
I anticipate just in general, it's gonna come down anyway from what I don't think.
because of what we went through.
Because we went through, but also is implement something that so we're not wasting money just to have him at every meeting when we don't need him.
Yeah,
And not that he doesn't go do a good job, he does, but.
how much, yeah, I think we know when we're in a jam, when we need that. I think we know that. We should know that. And if we do have a doubt, we should call them.
Right.
But you know, a lot of times our intent is good, and law is really predicated on the word intent. What was your intent? Was your intent this or was it that? And our intent is to serve the community here. So I think sometimes when the attorney gets involved, a simple thing now becomes confusing, becomes complex. And I don't think a lot of things need to be that complex.
Now, for other CSD, or you were at the water board, but you worked at another CSD.
Yes.
Also, did they have the attorney at every meeting?
So the last 2 CSDs I've been at, the attorney has been at every meeting.
But they're much larger.
Yes, Director Redfern has a comment. If this is okay. Yeah. Question.
When I was still with the Community Services District as an employee, I would go get training in Tahoe or wherever they had their big meeting or their big meetings for the year. One of the things that I found out that was very interesting is that board members are responsible, at least at the time, for knowing what the laws are and making sure the district keeps up with it, like with sniffers, which tell you whether there's gas in a hole, a manhole or not, that we need to be sure not only that our general manager is making sure they're trained for that, but we're supposed to know that. And if we step back on that or don't know it, it doesn't matter. At that time, the board was suable for not pushing that information. And Rick has been with the district for at least 15 years. He was working for the district when I worked for the district.
2002.
And right. And he brings a lot of knowledge and keeps us out of trouble. Even when we don't know we're in trouble, I feel more secure with him at the meetings, even though it's costing us money. I don't think we recognize all the time when we do need Rick. If it wasn't for that training that I took, I wouldn't have known that the board members were liable. And I can tell you at that time, the district did not have sniffers. They were sending men into manholes with, you know, on a wish and a prayer. There was no gas in there. Thank God nobody ever got hurt. But if there had been an accident, that could have come back to the board at the time.
No, I don't think that we don't, it's not that we don't want him at the board meeting, but sometimes when we're having a discussion like this, he doesn't need to be present for the entire meeting. And he can bring us information as he has in the past, you know. And I think the other thing is maybe we should move his comments before he gets comes out of the meeting. Because there are times he brings some of those comments that he has at the end of the meeting actually do make us think about.
I think there's a happy medium, and I agree
Right.
with you all, because I don't know about intention there. I think the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't know that I would ever plead that my intentions were good, Your Honor.
Well, you know, there's nothing radical that's going to happen. Basically, it's a law of protocol on how you follow things with this. Nobody's going to fall over. Nobody's going to die. Now, not what Mr. Redfern said. That's an OSHA thing. That's responsible to management with the people in the field. That isn't the board's direct. That's management's responsibility to know OSHA, Cal OSHA, Fed OSHA, if you will, and those kinds of things. Our decisions are predicated on serving the community. And yeah, we need an attorney, but do we need him here all the time? Do we need, with the costs as we saw tonight from the presentation coming, we need to start sharpening our pencils. And I mean, really sharp.
I can tell you what Rick would say right now, that we're discussing something that has not been agendized. Right now, we're discussing whether or not an attorney is necessary. And so we can just briefly, in an informational thing, talk about it, but we can't have a real discussion or make any decisions.
Right.
Well, are we doing that?
We can't provide direction because it's not an agenda.
Right, we're
So
not
what we are
providing a
discussing
suggestion, we're
is
just having a
information.
discussion.
And it's good to bring out your feelings, your banter, you learn. And this is something we probably should put on an agenda if you'd like to, and we should discuss it in depth. You know, maybe.
This is the sort of thing I'm thinking, even our training, you know, when I talk about training, there were a lot of different things I was talking about. And this is one of them. When is it appropriate to discuss this? Is an attorney necessary at all the meetings? There are all kinds of things that boards deal with as boards that we could all benefit from knowing.
So what I did is I took direction from the board, I took listening to the board, and we landed at this decision. We'll evaluate how much cost savings we get with him not in attendance at every meeting. Rick and I do a thorough review of the agenda. We know Rick is very thorough, he's very knowledgeable, and he has a lot of information and insight. So if he says I need to be there, I say why. He tells me, okay, you'll be there for that one. Or I don't know if you need to. If we need you, we'll call you. And he's available. He says, if you need to call me, call me. So we do review it. And so I just want to let the board know that that's the decision I've reached and what we're doing as of right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think my point too is, the way where my limited background in business and such, but every time working with consultants or attorneys, it's a luxury. And if I'm going to have that luxury on my side, I'm going to extract as much value as I can from that luxury. So as long as we're paying somebody, how can I load this gentleman up, right, with questions so that what he produces back, right, which is costing money, is of value that I see it. So I'm just kind of coming from that value
It's
side.
an investment.
It absolutely is. It's a luxury investment that some people don't have, but if we're going to be spending that, how do I get out of it? It's nice to know that we have these luxuries that we're paying for. But again, that's just more of my take on it. I love having knowledge around that keeps us out of trouble. Just want more.
I agree with
value.
Our local school board, high school district does not have an attorney present, and they just spent several $100,000 in payouts and made some kind of interesting decisions, but that's one extreme. I think there's a happy medium.
I think we're all in kind of
Okay.
agreement, there's a happy medium.
So
Okay.
last two items I have is communicate with CSDA, which I discussed on the board training. And last thing is visited the wastewater treatment plant. The guys are taking out the MBR system and they're flushing it out, cleaning it out. It's a pretty sight. If any of you guys are ever interested, let me know. I'll give you a call and you can come out and see what it looks like
Over
at the casino.
at the casino.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep putting me on that short list.
Yes. I will make sure that next time they're pulling out these cassettes, I send out an email, we'll get them out there. When do you think that big?
Are those like the webs?
So what these are, this is membrane filtration. It's, the system we have has probably 1,000 strands. These membranes are very tiny. The microns on that are 0.000, I can't remember the number, microns, so that the water can pass through. But what you have going through there is everything that's coming into the plant that makes it past the initial treatment process and stuff. They had a bunch of what they call red worms there. And it was interesting.
Okay. I've toured No, it's a very interesting, and
No, I know.
membrane plants, they're very nice about showing you stuff, but are you saying that things have gotten in the system that do not belong there?
No, what I'm saying is just watching the maintenance process could
okay.
be very interesting if someone's interested. That's all.
It is interesting, it's science, you guys.
That concludes my report. Sorry.
Okay, and so we do not have legal counsel's report tonight. Wendy, Secretary Treasurer's report?
700 forms are due by April 1st, so you guys, you did yours? Okay. You can do them electronically. You'll get an email from South Tech Hosting. And if you don't remember your password, just call me. I can reset your password. And then that will send a link to say, hey, reset password. We're gonna have to be doing sexual harassment and ethics training, but the board governments that should, did they say that?
It does not include sexual harassment.
Oh, it doesn't. What about ethics?
It does not include ethics or sexual
Okay.
harassment.
So we'll have to set up ethics. You can do that online through a webinar at your home. It's a 2-hour class.
Do we all have to do it, or is it just the new board members? Or
We do
We have
that.
to do it every other year.
Yeah, you have to do it every 2 years.
Okay.
So Director Jones is up in March, Deanna.
Mine was up in December 31st of 2021. I didn't do it through the CSD
Oh,
site
that's
because I
right.
couldn't make it work.
Yes,
Shut the nose.
you're right. So we have Director Deambro, his is up in March. Yours was up in January. So we have to get yours up. So we can do a whole in-house training if you want. Or you can just sign up for CSDA, I can sign you up. So, and then we're looking at new banking services. Mechanics Bank put us on an analysis and didn't say anything, and so we would get like a service fee for $200 a month. And an analysis, the way they do it is based per transaction, which is a check, a deposit, anything. So we have between 72 and 84 transactions a month, and they're charging us $200. And it took me 6 months to finally get to talk to a person, because the contact that we had that is the government banking person, she just like stopped working there for some reason, and they didn't have a department. So I've gotten several quotes with Montecito Bank and Trust, Five Star Bank. One of the things is that they have to be able to collateralize our funds by 110%. And I did call First Bank. They aren't sure if they can do that, so I'm guessing that if they don't know about it, then they can't do it. So our only local bank that we could switch to would be Montecito Bank and Trust. But theirs comes with fees. Five Star immediately said, everything you do will be free. We'll waive all charges.
Well,
Because-
isn't 5 Star, we have money with them?
Yes,
Yeah.
and he would send us a machine to run the checks through. So when we get checks for our sewer fees, we just run that through. It goes automatically to the bank. The only issue I see is that if we need cash for some reason, we could keep like a small savings account at Mechanics Bank that doesn't get fees. And
Or
we-
petty cash?
Yeah, like petty cash. We have $150 petty cash. So in March, I'll be bringing that to the board, their proposals to see where we want to go.
How much money do we normally keep with the current bank?
We have anywhere from $500,000 to $600,000 because they pay hardly anything on interest. When we get our sewer fees on the property tax, I just keep between 500 and 600 in our money market as we can quickly draw from, and then I transfer the rest to 5 Star.
But we keep about $500,000 in the account at all times, and they're charging us fees?
Yeah, and
I don't think so.
It was very uncustomer friendly.
I just went off on Bank of America because I keep a $20,000 minimum in all of my accounts, in each one of my accounts, and I said, you're charging me to get a wire transfer? You're gonna lose me as a customer, because I have 2 customers that pay me by wire transfer, and they charge me $20 a piece. I'm like, no, I'm not paying $20 or $40 a month to you for a wire transfer when I keep this much amount of money in my account.
It's why I wouldn't want a penny to be a Mechanics. I mean, I would use Montecito or whatever local bank for the small amount to have some liquid money. But Mechanics, that makes me mad. That
Yeah.
very poor service.
Is this something they just added on in first of the year type thing?
well, when they switched,
They got bought out.
they got bought out, and because of COVID, they delayed their changeover, and then once it changed, like 6 months ago, we got hit with like $174 service charge, and I would contact the lady that was our customer representative, and it's like, why are we getting these fees? Oh, I'll check back with you. Never heard anything. So then I text her again, okay, now we're on month 2, why are we getting these fees? And I finally went to Sue. I mean, Sue and Ed over there are great, but, you know, they're just the worker bees. They
Have you
can't-
gone to Sue and Ed and say, if you do not reverse these fees, we're leaving?
I did get, about $400 of the fees reversed, but we still paid another like $400 fees.
Right.
And
They're
they
powerless.
can't, it's out of their hands because we're a government account.
Right.
So the lady that I've been working with, I said, you know, you're charging us, and we can go somewhere else and get free money. I mean, you're charging us to keep our money there, that just doesn't make sense.
Right, I mean, that's just like I told Mom, Bank of America. You can take my, you know, my toys and go in another sandbox, I'd be more than happy to. You know,
So you'll have something on the next agenda for us to
Yes.
approve. Very good.
Yeah.
Anything else on the treasurer's report?
That's it.
Okay, and committee reports? We do not have any committee meetings, correct? Okay, director's comments. Director Redfern, do you have any comment before we adjourn? Anyone have any comments? Well, I just, did you have something?
No,
Oh.
scratch my head,
Okay.
sorry.
I just want to reiterate, welcome to our new board member. This is your first full meeting and yeah, it's great to have you. Yes,
New language.
we're all still learning, so. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a
Take a motion
motion
to
from Director Van Pelt. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Director Beard, so we have a motion by Van Pelt, a second by Beard to adjourn the meeting at 7:55 PM.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Director Beard?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Van Pelt?
Aye.
Director D'Ambra?
Aye.
Director Redfern?
Nay. Aye.
I was gonna do that.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, good to see you.
Can I sign this and give this back to you?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Yours.
yeah, it's fine.
Oh,
And then I still need your like W-4.
Yeah, I'll drop that off tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked at all that, I was kind of shuffling through paperwork last couple
Thank you.
of days.
Okay.
Okay, well, yay. Another one done, yes. You're gonna be good, Bradley.
Well, it'll take a couple months to understand the back, so, you know, I got a bunch of documents. Put back, you know, a lot of that stuff, the legacy goes back so far, it's to understand what's happening in present time, you gotta understand, right, a little bit of the history of this, because some of these residents have been dealing with this for.
Yeah, we're original sewer house, yeah.
Yeah.
My husband's grandpa's on the wall over there.
Yeah, you just don't, you know, you don't think about it, and all these issues, it's such a hot button issue.
Urban boundaries, you know, if you think of sewer and then you think of everything from water, it's just like, it's very important and people don't think about sewer. Like one of the things that came up, it's like, where were you for 20? Well, when my sewer goes the way it's supposed to, that's that.
Yeah.
I ran for office because Alex dropped off a thing, he didn't have time to drop it off, he was being annexed in West San Ynez, he's like, what's this?
Yeah.
And I came here and I wasn't dissatisfied with the answers I got, next thing you know, Mark Berthel said,